and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Only Friends podcast. Got to pour one out for the homie Conrad. Oh boy, he couldn't make it today.
Yeah, look, he didn't show up like the Jets didn't show up last night.
That's right.
They could win the division, man. Plus 500.
That's right. They could.
Oh, they still could win the division.
Yeah, fifths and butts were candy and nuts.
Right.
Be Christmas in July.
Is it not Christmas in July
Are
for
they
the Steelers?
going to win the division?
No, it's not.
Let Russ cook, man. That's your guy.
He's more of a sous chef, in my opinion. Yeah, Conrad needed a mental health day. We decided to give it to him.
Actually, he doesn't have to tell us why he's not here. He gets up to 3 days until he needs a note.
Okay.
Those are the rules.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah. Sure.
Get a doctor's note.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the overreacting Yinzer, okay? I'm not going to be the guy who comes in here and tells you how the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl.
I'm the underreacting.
How Russ is cooking.
Yep.
He looked so bad.
Oh.
I'm sorry. He looked atrocious.
Atrocious?
I don't see it. I really don't see it. Now, I've been drinking yesterday. I had a few beers, so maybe my vision may have been a little blurry. But, I didn't see that, a clear difference between him and Fields. They have different styles, of course, but I wasn't like, oh my God, you got to get him out and get Fields in there tomorrow. There's no way. Obviously, Fields is way better. I didn't see that.
Well,
I'm gathering that's what you're saying.
I'm not.
Or you're just saying they're both bad.
I'm not implying that Fields is a Pro Bowl quarterback by any stretch.
No, but you think there's a clear difference between the two of them?
I think with how bad our offensive line is, yes. Russ rushed for 1 yard and a touchdown, and I think it's quite debatable of whether or not he even got in. He looks geriatric when trying to run a quarterback sneak.
It was nice to see him throw the ball down the field, though. It was really.
That's what you call that?
They had
He looked like Big Ben in his last season.
Did you see Pickens' stats?
Yeah, Pickens.
Right.
Is
Finally, we're utilizing our best player.
Listen, I appreciate he was targeted, but if we go back,
that he was targeted.
If we go back and watch those catches, they're just
amazing.
Yes, they were amazing. They were terribly thrown balls.
I mean,
sure, he gives them a chance.
They were thrown well enough, right?
I mean, sure, he gives them a chance at a 50-50 spot, but it's like I don't know how to explain. It didn't pass the eye test. I'm by no stretch of the imagination a quarterback critic or anything along those lines, but come on, man, this isn't gonna beat. You think that you couldn't just pluck him out and put Mason Rudolph in and not skip a beat?
Did you watch Mason Rudolph?
They both stink.
Yeah.
No,
I think that Russell Wilson has a lot more talent than Russell.
Look at Najee with over 100 yards.
Of course.
Yeah, look at that.
Of course. Fields wasn't in there to poach him.
what did Pickens have? He had 5 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. That's
career game.
That's
for him.
9 targets.
Yeah, 9 targets. It's great. It's great to see. It's just
you appreciate 9 targets.
It's a career game for him, but I don't know what is in the corner.
It's just some
an ad.
Oh, it's just an ad.
Well, can you scroll up? What was Russ's stats? He had 16 to 29.
He's gonna look
great,
fine on paper. He's gonna look absolutely fine on paper. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the wounded ducks that he was chucking around the field.
I wouldn't say they were all wounded ducks. He let the receiver run underneath it.
No, the receiver ran past it.
Yeah. Listen, did I think he looked amazing? Do I think he looked like a Super Bowl, Pro Bowl quarterback? No, of course not. But he looked better than he exceeded my expectations. Now, granted, they were very low. Right, and I know they were very low for you, but is that what you expected, or did you expect worse?
That was exactly what I expected.
Okay, see, I expected worse.
I expected.
I mean, he didn't turn the ball over.
No, but he certainly could have. Like, Pickens saved multiple interceptions.
Right. He also hasn't played a game in like however long. Like, he's going to be rusty Russ, right? So, like, I mean, shake a little rust off. He's only going to get better. He's going to look better the next game. I think his throws are going to be more accurate. Is he still going to be a statue in the pocket? Yes. Is he still going to get sacked a lot? Probably.
I'll tell you this.
Like,
I'll tell you this much.
And I'm still not advocating for him over Fields. I just think it's comparable. I think they both give the team an equal chance to win.
I think it was very ballsy to go with Russ prior to the line getting healthy. I think he's going to be a sitting duck against a good defense. Luckily, the Jets aren't really that. And I think Tomlin's decision to pull Fields now and go with Russ was very smart and strategic, given the point of the schedule that they're in, where they play the Jets at home as basically a small underdog.
Giants at home.
Then they get the Giants at home, where they'll be a touchdown favorite.
Then a bye.
And then Washington on the road. And that Washington game will be the last. I don't even want to call it a cupcake because they're quite competitive. But
they're really good.
Nobody knows what Daniel's status is. Sounds like it's a rib injury.
Yeah,
could be a few weeks.
By then, it's
Who
probably
knows?
He'll be back most likely.
Sure, but like their defense isn't all that great. Like he's winning them games.
They have a great defense. They have a great coach, a great defensive coach. Like I don't know. I think Washington's really good.
Do you think they're gonna make noise? Do you think they're this year's Houston?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't.
Yeah, definitely. I think Daniels is better than Stroud, and like it's just I think they have a decent defense and two really good running backs, and so I don't know.
Yeah, bold claims. But yeah, I mean,
this guy.
I should say it's the last cupcake because they have Cleveland twice.
This guy.
But
we do have Cleveland twice with DTR in there now.
Maybe
it's been confirmed.
Is it?
Well, it's been confirmed that
he got hurt.
He did get hurt, so yeah, maybe somebody else. But by the time we play,
Jameis?
Yeah, it should be Jameis.
Yeah, I don't know.
Eating
Has to be
W's.
Jameis.
You know who it's not going to be? It's Deshaun Watson.
He's
done. He blew out his Achilles.
I was gonna say it had to be an Achilles, right?
It was.
He's out for the season?
He's out for the season.
Yeah, I saw the replay of it. It was just like very, very clear to me that his Achilles just snapped in half. What a disgusting injury. I wonder
they could probably just massage it back to health.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Probably has a guy on staff. What a weird thing that this has become such a consistent, I guess, injury within the NFL.
I know.
I don't. It's so strange. Like it's becoming like the 1990s version of ACLs.
It was like I never heard of someone having like an Achilles injury like 5 years ago. Now it's like a couple people every year have it.
Yeah, multiple. Yeah, and I mean CMC still isn't back.
Yeah,
with his two lame feet.
Was there any update on the guy that got really hurt last night? I know somebody got.
He's a stable condition, I guess. It was one of the linemen.
I think he was moving his extremities as he was leaving.
Yeah, it was one of the linemen.
Yeah.
Guapo showed that clip of them celebrating old Danny Smith, special teams coach for the Steelers. Yinzer through and through, born and raised. This guy fucking has a war against bubblegum. You've never seen anybody chew it like this. So this is after they blocked the field goal, and I just want to say.
Is he okay right now? He looks like he's being attacked.
Oh, okay. So there's a backstory to this. Last year he took a hit on the sideline and dislocated his shoulder and refused to get surgery because he didn't want to miss a game. So now he can't lift his arms above his head.
Oh, jeez.
So like when they're coming at him and he's kind of alligator arming it, it's because that's the best he can do. But they got screwed early in the game where they blocked an extra point. That was just clearly a block. And had it called back because
leverage on Fitzpatrick
because Minka brushed his hand against somebody's shoulder.
I mean, if you watch the replay, he clearly didn't use his hand to like project himself.
Right.
Like he just jumped and he just happened to have his hand there.
Yeah.
So they got the ball moved closer and then they went for two and got it.
Yeah. I'm a little doom and gloom today in my tone, but I'm actually not in my. Yeah, this is the one that got called back. What a joke. What a fucking joke. I may sound doom and gloom, but I'm actually like quite high on the Steelers. I think that my over of 8.5 is a fucking lock. I think that
higher.
I think they have an outside chance of winning the division. though the Ravens obviously quite legit.
I mean, it'll come down to the
Quite legit.
It'll come down to the games we play against the Ravens.
We don't lose against the Ravens, man. We just don't.
They're
That Steelers team last year was bad, and they went 4-2 in the division or 5-1 in the division, something like that.
They lost. Did they lose?
They lost one to Cincy for sure.
The Ravens lost to the Raiders. We had them in Survivor early.
What are you talking about?
The Ravens.
Yes.
He's saying we don't lose to the Steelers. Don't lose to the Ravens. We haven't played them yet this year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Talking's hard.
Yeah, I know. I hit Berkey with the. I could see the Steelers going 9-8 again this year. When you look at the rest of their schedule, and his head nearly exploded. But I mean, it's like these division games are always tough. They're always tough. I could see. I mean, it's not inconceivable that we can go 3-3 in the division and then lose to the Commanders, the Eagles, and the Chiefs, and then we're 9-8. If we win the rest of them. So like that's not out of the realm of possibility. There's another world where we go 5-1 in the division and we beat the Commanders and we beat the Eagles, and then now we're like 13-4, 12-5. Like that's also like you were like bet me, but I was like, well, I'm not like saying this is what's going to happen. I'm saying it's a real possibility. So is the other side of what you said, where like they could win a division.
Well, you just bet on the one that you think is more probable. Like I think that they are a 10.5 win team. You seem to be in the camp that they're a 9.5 win team.
I mean that's not what I said.
Well,
it's literally not what I said.
Wow.
Right. Like
I interpret the realm of possibility as you kind of like pointing out like I think this is probable.
No, I think that people are like seeing that they were 5-2 and they think that like it's not a possibility that they're definitely going to be much better this year than they were last year. They're going to win 10 plus games, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure they can, but like don't be shocked if they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're Yinzers, man.
Yeah,
what do you
I
mean?
know.
Don't be shocked. They're basically already locked up the 50 or the 500 year for Tomlin. I mean, we're Super Bowl bound, baby.
Let's go.
I'm just disappointed I didn't get my Fields package. I mean, he really fucked my parlay here. Second week in a row.
Also went over.
Yeah, second week in a row where we're taking the under at a Steelers game somehow fucked.
I know.
Who would have guessed?
God, it's just like I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew that the Jets were not going to score enough points. Sure, they got 15. I just thought we were going to get 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Instead, we got 37.
Yeah, Russ cooked.
Hey, defense helped them out a little bit. Interception down to the 1.
Are we doing this? Are we doing Weekend Warrior review?
No, we're just bemoaning that I haven't won. And you know what? I'm starting to see.
You haven't won the same game parlay yet?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm starting to see quite the correlation here. Since I started betting parlays,
you've been losing.
I'm over.
That's how it's supposed to work, Burke.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it's supposed to work.
When do I get the cash in?
Essentially, yeah.
When do I get the cash in on one of these motherfuckers?
You'll probably, if you do it every day, every week for the rest of the year, you'll win one or two.
Well, the problem now is that like I keep de-risking like I keep betting less and less and less each week because I realize now I don't win these things.
When you do the plus 1200s, you're gonna win them probably roughly around 1 out of 12 times.
No, way worse than that. They snipe you on odds.
Yeah,
probably 1 in 20 or something.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Vegas isn't built off of you winning parlays, man.
But Berkey's sharp, so he might win them on 1 out of 10.
I really thought I was sharp with the Fields anytime touchdown. I was
didn't touch the field.
Man, after the first three series of watching Russ's arm look like it was gonna fall off trying to throw a screen pass, I was like, "That's it.
Yeah,
this is his last series of the game. Fields is coming in. That anytime touchdown's a fucking lock." You want to know what else would have been a lock if he would have came in? The goddamn under.
Yeah. That's true.
We would have won that game 18-15.
Right.
It would have been the proper heart attack that I was looking for.
You're like, do you think it's like over under like Russ sees 50% of the snaps? And I was like, definitely over. And then you said 75, and I was like, I still think it's over. Like I didn't think that they were like they make the move to Russ not to just see him have a bad half and then bench him. And that's not what they were going to do. They were going to let him play the whole game out and then evaluate afterwards.
I mean, not going to lie.
And I think he played well enough that they're going to.
No, he definitely played well enough. He's for sure the starter.
Well, there's a chance that like he plays a few drives, like realizes he doesn't feel like perfect, and then just like sits out the rest of the game.
Truthfully,
you know
how he has that like badge of honor of like he's the leader and like he always says the right thing, and I honest to God thought after the third series he was going to walk to the sideline and fake an injury on behalf of the team. I truly thought that. In the back of my head, I was like, he's just going to do the right thing and pull himself out of the fucking game.
Honestly, if he felt like he couldn't do it, he probably would have.
No, he would not.
I think he would have, but
not in a million years.
No.
I think it's possible that he could have, just because he's very like, I want to be 100% before I touch the field. He literally said this like week 4 or something. He's like, it's a long season. I want to be there for the team.
Nah, I think that was a lot of cope.
Like if it's like it was an ankle thing, right? Like some calf.
It was a calf strain.
Like if something was really going on, he literally might just be like, I don't want to take credit for this game anymore. I want out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of the calf injury stuff was like overhyped, and it was a way for them to kind of play Justin, see what he was worth without hurting any feelings. Like, it seemed like he was largely demoted because he was emergency quarterback during all that time, and he certainly was healthy enough to be backup.
Yeah.
Just in. Before we get to Maria Konnikova, who will be calling in shortly, we have a lot to discuss with her. We're going to talk about her recent World Series bracelet, as well as the podcast that her and Nate Silver have out. But I'm perusing sports Twitter right now, and it's been confirmed. Number 3 Penn State versus number 5 Ohio State is a noon kickoff. That seems like a miss.
Noon Eastern?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That seems like a miss.
Is this a big rivalry?
Huge rivalry that Penn State, it's very lopsided rivalry. Ohio State's won more national championships in the last 10 years than Penn State has beat Ohio State.
They're our Achilles heel. Not to bring up the Achilles again, but they just... Well,
to be fair, before them, it was Michigan.
Right.
There was a decade where they couldn't beat Michigan, and then a decade where they couldn't beat Ohio State.
Right now, it's both. Because they literally haven't lost a game from 22 on that's not named Michigan or Ohio State. That's noon kickoff. I mean, it's just, you would think that would be a night game, prime time.
In Penn State Beaver Stadium.
Right. Like, you think that
117,000 sellout for sure.
Right.
Seems like
I don't know what the other games are, but I can't imagine a better one.
There's a bigger game than this going on that weekend.
Yeah.
Also seems like a big miss for, I don't know if game day will go or not, but I feel like they tend to not go for noon games.
Yeah. You know what? Is it, what day is it?
November 2nd.
Okay. So the World Series will be over, right?
No.
I wonder.
It's a week from.
It might be competing with Game 7 or something like that of the World Series, which would make sense.
Yeah,
right? Like,
that would make sense. Yeah, the World Series starts this weekend. It starts the 25th. Yeah, it should be over.
Let's see. I'm looking right now.
Who knows how they spread it?
No. So Game 7 is Saturday, November 2nd. So that's why they don't want to compete with it being Game 7, Yankees versus Dodgers, because
that would be sick, though.
Right?
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. That has to be the reason. I can't imagine anything else.
Does seem quite fair.
Yeah.
To not want to compete with Dodgers Yankees Game 7.
We got what we wanted.
Yeah, we got Yankees Dodgers.
Well, you guys got what you wanted. I wanted to see Cleveland and the Mets.
No, you didn't.
God, no, you did not.
You didn't.
No, you did not. Yeah, we're gonna get to see powerhouses like Ohtani versus Judge or Stan. I mean, just massive power on both sides, just going at each other. It's gonna be fun.
A lot of first ballots in there.
All right, we got Maria, but right before we bring her in, Guapo, I just sent you a link. I just want to play this just so we can get off of this Steeler talk, and I can feel a little bit more justified in everything that I've been saying for the last 15 minutes. This was an attempted screen pass in the first quarter.
Yeah, that's not great.
Okay, but that was a miscommunication. That wasn't just a bad throw. It was. He probably was supposed to go straight out, and then he turned up field, and that's why.
Call me the apologist.
Oh man, Brian is. I don't see it for sure.
Come on, guys. Like, that was a clear Okay, when you can pull up 1,000 other bad passes, right? That one was a clear miscommunication. Look where he's throwing the ball. Look, see, there's no way.
Does he have eyes?
I mean, obviously
the look on Tomlin's face was, I fucked up. All right. We are going to be joined by author, World Series of Poker bracelet winner.
Poker booklet.
And apparently a fellow Twitter drama instigator like myself.
Yep.
Maria Konnikova, welcome.
Hey guys, how are you?
What's up?
How are you?
Hello.
Hello, good to see you all.
Yeah, you too.
So congratulations are in order. You did the thing that none of us in this room have done.
No.
Or ever plan on doing, I don't think at this
Probably
point.
not.
Congrats on the bracelets.
Yeah.
How many runners were in the field?
468, I want to say.
Okay, but
which is actually 464 since I fired 4 bullets.
I was just saying, but how many unique entries? Really?
you immediately took the joke right out of my mouth.
It was there. For the
okay, so it was you and Landon and 2 other people playing a 4-handed match.
Yeah, I was in for 100.
In for 100
entries.
Well, it was it was 3 re-entries max, so it would have been hard to be in for 100.
Oh, this depends on how many accounts
Got
you can get a hold of.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I wasn't even thinking. I'm sorry, guys. My brain's clearly turned off.
Yeah, come on. This is online. This isn't real poker.
Right.
No, it's not.
Walk us through what it was like to. I get. Were you in the East Coast or Vegas when it happened?
I was actually in Vegas. So
okay.
I've been back and forth between the East Coast and Vegas for the last few weeks. When I won, I was in Vegas. I'll be going back to the East Coast in 3 days, and then I'll be back in Vegas for NAPT.
Wait, you're in Vegas right now?
I'm in Vegas right now, yes.
Why are we calling? You could have came here.
Yeah.
She didn't want to
You
sit
have
next to
dogs.
us.
I think you have dogs.
Oh, yeah, but I could have left the dog at home. Are you allergic or are you just afraid?
I'm incredibly allergic. I'm like deathly allergic.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Allergically
Yeah.
afraid.
Allergically afraid, yeah.
Maybe the dog not.
I love dogs.
If you're that
I love
much
dogs
allergic.
so much,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's the saddest thing in the world. Cats, I actually have to go to the hospital for. I have an EpiPen for
Really?
cats, so dogs are not as bad.
You're
But,
afraid
yeah,
of how
I
much
mean-
you love them.
There's been a lot of dogs and a lot of cats at this place, so like,
Yeah,
maybe,
so I
maybe
think that
avoiding
we
Are they
both
eating the
probably-
dogs and the cats?
Yeah, I was like, is it like even if they're not around, like the hair?
Yeah,
and
even if it's
everything's
not
still
around,
there?
like I try to. So my best friend has 2 cats, or 1 cat now. And when she was moving, I was like, "Oh, I'll help you unpack," because the cats were with her mom; they weren't there, and I had to leave after the first minute because I had such a massive allergy attack to her furniture and to unpacking her things, and I've never been in her apartment since then.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
like
We'll keep
one
you
of the
alive.
most, honestly, like that's so much worse than a food allergy.
It
Like, there's
is.
No
It is.
food on earth I wouldn't sacrifice over being able to pet a dog.
Right.
And the thing is, when I was little, I wasn't allergic, and then the allergies just kind of grew over time.
Yeah.
And now, my sister has the cutest dog in the world. I can't go over to my sister's house. It's
Like
heartbreaking.
the hyperallergenic ones? Or you're
Oh
fine
yeah,
with
it's a
those,
hypoallergenic.
right?
She has a Bernedoodle.
And you're still
There's no
allergic
such
to-
thing. There's no such thing as hypoallergenic.
Really?
It's a scam.
Oh, it's a scam.
It is a scam, and it's
man.
really it's so sad. They're so wonderful. I know I'm derailing our bracelet conversation,
No,
but
this is fine.
but
Kirstedter's watching, so it's fine.
Yeah.
She could have sat next to us too.
Good.
but yeah, no, I love them, and it breaks my heart.
Very unlucky.
Yes.
Hopefully, with the development of AI, they'll figure out a way that you can either suit up and pet a dog, or make yourself less allergic.
Tesla will make an Optimus dog, maybe that it's like a little dog robot.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll be waiting for the day.
Well, the good news is you'll be able to afford it because you're a little bit richer now, having shipped this bracelet. Walk us through the overall event.
So the overall event was, so at first, I was doing just fine, registered not on time, but close to on time. I was like, oh my God, this is great. I'm going to be in for 1 bullet, just beautiful. And then as I wrote about, because Matt, you kind of foreshadowed this by saying that I'm into Twitter drama. I did a Substack on my win. And so I talked about this, but I had pocket jacks and I had just 20 something big blinds. And I know everyone's going to criticize me because you're supposed to not play pocket jacks, but I played them and I busted to kings.
Sure.
And so, they weren't the first bullet. I rebought. I got pocket jacks again. I had like 18 big blinds. I ran into kings a second time because clearly I don't learn. I'm incapable of learning. And so then I rebought. So this was rebuy number 2, bullet number 3. And that was just super, super short. Like, I honestly do not remember how I busted, and I haven't looked it up. Like, I'll at some point look at the hand history, but it must have been like just quick and relatively painless. And that's it. I had 1 bullet left, so I rebought. And at that time, I started with probably sub 20 bigs. This was close to the end of registration and was short for a lot of the time leading up to the bubble, and then was kind of in the middle of the pack up until the final 2 tables. I was one of the shortest stacks at my table when we were down to 2 tables, and then had 2 hands that propelled me to, I think, 3rd in chips. And from that point on, I was always top 3 until I won. And one of those hands was a major bluff when I went all in with king high on the river and got a tank fold. By tank fold, I mean the guy used up his entire time bank. So I was sure that he was going to like spike call, click at the last minute.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, oh fuck, well there we go. I'll be out in whatever it is, 16th place. But he ended up folding, so that was huge. That was a really big pickup to get that bluff through. And if you guys want to talk strategy, we can talk about that hand. But after that, then I lost a hand or 2. After that, at first I was the chip leader of the table. Then I lost a hand or 2 and was in 2nd place to the player on my direct right, so small blind to my big blind. And we got into a hand pre-flop where folded to him. He raised really big, like 4x in the small blind, and I had pocket queens, and I was like, "Fuck it, let's get the money in." And I jammed, and he insta-called. He had 9s, and I held. So after that, I catapulted to 3rd in chips, and I think that was really a pivotal hand in getting me to heads up and to eventually to the bracelet. Heads up, by the way, I also had a huge bluff that worked out really well, and I had a 4-1 chip lead after that.
Starting to hear a theme generate here.
I never bluffed, by the way. I never bluffed.
Right. No, yeah. Of course not. You're a woman.
Right, yes.
I mean, isn't that the thing? Nobody understands what's going on under the hood. Everybody just sees what they want to see when the cards are turned over and believe what they want to believe. Before we get into the strategy, though, because I am curious, I'd like to hear more, not just this event, but like what you've been working on. Mm-hmm. I know you're very close with Eric and stuff like that, but we got to get to the juicy stuff first. It's impossible to ignore this back and forth with Norman. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit last week, but I'm curious of both your overall thoughts, but also just like your general reaction to it, because, we all have some experience with Norman. I think most of us give him the benefit of the doubt in a lot of instances, but it did seem very ill-timed, let's say, kind of overshadowing you winning a bracelet here as opposed to the dozens of other people who had re-entered in the previous bracelet events that also were able to capture gold.
So, brief summary. I won the bracelet. I was really excited. I posted the win online, which, including the screenshot that showed how many entries, how many bullets I had, which, by the way, I didn't have to do. And this is something that is never public information, right? Like, you don't, unless someone posts, I fired X number of bullets, especially live, but also online, unless it was a live streamed event, like, you just don't know, right? So I chose to share it because I think it's really important to be completely transparent about how you're playing, because Hand and Mob is not an accurate representation of your winnings. Like, it's important to be like, hey, like, I won X amount, but I was actually down because I was in for 3 bullets or whatever it is. So I posted this and then I went to sleep because it was 4 a.m. at this point. And I was, it hadn't really sunk in, but obviously this is a huge deal and something that I'd really, really wanted. But even if you're an amazing player, and I don't think I am, like, I'm constantly working on my game, but there thousands of players who are a lot better than I am. And so, you can never, like, it's not something you're like, oh yes, if I play well, like I'm definitely going to get a World Series of Poker bracelet one day. Like that's not how it works, especially because in tournament poker, that's definitely not how it works. So I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that just happened. And I went to sleep and I was really happy. And then I woke up and I was still happy because I don't, good mental health management, do not go on social media first thing in the morning. So I did not.
Oh man, are you for hire?
Absolutely.
I could use a morning routine coach, I think.
Yes, absolutely. You can hire me as a mental coach any day. Okay. So, a few hours later, like I had my morning routine, everything was good. And then I went online and I was like, and I saw that my Twitter mentions were like insane, like hundreds of replies. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. Everyone's so excited about my bracelet.
Wow, what a positive day on the internet.
Yeah, finally. Like, yay, like I posted this and it's so great.
And everyone's my friend.
Exactly.
It's never
Everyone
positive
loves
when there's
me.
that many notifications.
As soon as you see 20 plus.
I was like, oh wait, no.
God.
And that's when I saw Norman's tweet and like, and all of the replies to that. And, obviously your listeners know what he tweeted, but he was like, not to throw shade at Maria, and then proceeds to throw massive amounts of shade at me.
Yes. It's the no offense, but, and then you say something offensive.
Exactly. Which is, I wrote, like, it's, that if you're ever tempted to say, like, this is another free lesson. If you're ever tempted to say, no offense, but just don't say it.
Right.
Just do not say it. Because if in the back of your mind, you already know that it's necessary to preface something with no offense, but that's fucking offensive.
Right. Like the worst case scenario of that. Yeah. Worst case scenario that is like, I'm not racist, but I'm not sexist, but.
Exactly.
It's like, come on, just stop. You're about to say something very terrible.
Exactly. Like the moment you feel like you need that but, like just shh.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Yes.
Social media lessons 101.
And especially on Twitter, by the way, right? Like it's not like you blurted it out. Like you had to actually type that shit out. Like
you had time to think about clicking send before you did it too.
Right.
Exactly. Especially when it's a long tweet and like you clearly thought about the wording. Like, yeah, like you had time to think through that shit. But anyway, he called me out for playing online, and he mentioned this several times that this was an online event, which is, apparently just that's not real poker. Yeah. And I rebought, which is also like
absurd.
Total bullshit.
Clearly,
mortal sin.
Out of how many? Do you guys happen to know off the top of your head how many World Series of Poker bracelets are up for grabs in 2024? Over 200,
guess, right? I would guess it's just south of 200.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say around 200.
Yeah.
In this entire time, there have been 2 women, so one other than me, who has won an open bracelet. So first, huge congrats to Vivian Saliba, who won the PLO event at World Series of Poker Europe.
Right, that just actually happened. Yeah,
that just happened.
2 weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
2 weeks ago, yep.
Yeah.
So this summer in Vegas, 0 women won open events, none.
Wow.
Then Vivi won 2 weeks ago, and then I won. So we are the only 2 females, bringing the number of women who've won World Series of Poker open bracelets. Let's say it's under 30. So of all time since the start of the World Series. Still, that's tiny, right?
Yeah.
If we think about how many bracelets have been awarded. Right. So I'm the second female who has won in 2024, and not to throw shade, but out of the hundreds of bracelets, I am the one who is singled out for this Norman Chad rant. And let's just also say, I've never met Norman Chad. Like, he might be the sweetest guy. Like, I don't particularly want to meet him, to be honest, at this point. But like, I've never met him, and I have nothing against him. And so I was like, wait, what did I do to you? Like, why? Why go and like just completely devalue, like, these are conversations worth having, right? Like, how many re-entries are okay in an event? Should we be awarding bracelets, online? These are all important conversations, but like, dude, can I just celebrate the fact that I've won a bracelet and that, I've made female history in a way. Like, anyway, so I was upset.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of answered my follow-up, which was, I didn't realize you had never met Norm. So that kind of makes that makes a lot more sense. I was going to ask, like, if you took it as a personal kind of shot, and the fact that you've never met him, I don't see how you couldn't. But the reason why I was going to ask that is because it is longstanding that, like, he just has a mission against reentry, which.
But this, by the way, this wasn't even unlimited reentry, even though for some reason everyone was saying it was unlimited. It wasn't, unlike a lot of events during the summer, which absolutely are. Yeah,
that's kind of like the other aspect to this, is that there were certainly high profile people who won a single reentry. I mean, the 5K is always a reentry, the 10K 6 max, like, these are going to have high profile winners. They're certainly going to be in for 2 bullets whenever necessary. Even like the 250K, that's a single reentry event. Struck me as very strange. Obviously, I think your point is very valid that if ever you're going to do this, it's not the time where we have the opportunity to celebrate something unique.
Some are unlimited reentries at the series, like the 777 was unlimited reentry.
Yeah, and one of the final events, it wasn't the mini main because I didn't play
closer,
that. I don't remember. Maybe it was the closer, was unlimited. And I know this because I was at the same table when I bought in with Daniel Negreanu, who was just going all in blind every single hand and was like, oh, this is bullet number 8, I think. I don't remember what bullet it was. And I'm just trying to run up a stack. So that was it. He just didn't even look at his cards, which was wonderful for me and for everyone else, obviously, except he kept winning. But that's like, so I know that was unlimited reentry because that's a great strategy for him in those types of events.
Have you thought about, like, the motive of Norm and why he did it, why he chose you? Do you think he took the moment that you said, like, it was kind of like history that you made, and that the fact that you are a woman, and he took that opportunity so he could project his ideas of reentry, and the most eyes would get on it because he knew the reaction that would happen?
I don't know, but what he then said was, oh, I do this all the time, which, by the way, is not true. I had multiple people, I didn't want to do this, go through his Twitter timeline and was like, actually, no, you never call out people by name. And the other thing is, he's like, oh, this is my quest against unlimited reentry. For fuck's sake, this was not an unlimited reentry event. Like, at least choose one of the events that actually, like, shows your point. This is 3 reentries. Like, so as I said in the Substack that I wrote, so at EPT Barcelona back in August, September, I played the 3K Mystery Bounty. That was unlimited reentry. I came in 5th on 1 bullet. That was awesome, right? Yeah. That was actually unlimited reentry. Like, you want to take a shot? Like, take a shot at an unlimited reentry event.
And even then, like, if Daniel won the closer on bullet number 8, going all in blind, he wouldn't make this tweet.
No,
just wouldn't make the tweet.
Well, he also just wouldn't know. Like, even if unless, like, somebody went out of their way to publicly say that Daniel was on 8 bullets.
That's exactly right. Like, he wouldn't know. Like, I also, like, I wanted to share this information, and like he took it and he actually, like, held that against me. The fact that I voluntarily saved this, and I actually, like, because I had a deep run in the 3K 6 max the week before, I know that the person who won it had multiple re-entries, as did, like, the entire final table. Not literally, there were a few people in for 1 bullet, but this is, like, every single event. And I do understand that it's more high profile if it's me, because I am a woman, like, this is, but it's also like, I'm a softer target, and, like, I don't know. The optics of it are very, very bad, whatever the thinking in the back. And he, by the way, he must have known it because of the not to throw shade. I keep coming back at that, but, like, you fucking know it if you write that, right?
Like,
he
knew what was going to happen when he hit send. He knew exactly what was going to happen, and he took that advantage.
It's just like a really bad take. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say.
And, like I said, like these are conversations worth having. I don't like unlimited reentry events. Like if someone were like, Maria, you have to choose from now on, every single tournament in poker is going to be either a freeze out or unlimited reentry. What do you want? I would say freeze out. Right. Like that, if I had to pick one or the other, like I love freeze out events. I love single reentry events. If this had been a single reentry, it would have been sad for me because I wouldn't have won my bracelet, but like I would have been very, very happy to play it. Sometimes we'll take shots at higher events, and I only will take shots at ones that are very capped. Like I played the 25K this summer. It had one reentry. Had it been multiple reentries unlimited, I never would have played because I'm totally not, I'm not bankrolled for that. Had it been a freeze out, that would have been even better. But that's how I look at events, right? Like you have to look at the number of reentries. So these are important conversations, but dude, like just let me celebrate.
It's just a weird stance to have when like there's so many bracelets to be given out. Like you said, there's 200 or around that number. And most of the events are not unlimited reentries. So if there's a couple with unlimited, kind of who cares?
Well, right, but it's not just about World Series. It's about the tournament industry as a whole. And I think Maria is right in pointing out that these conversations are worth having. I think what's overlooked, I'm very guilty of this too, is you end up in the industry for long enough where you become completely jaded. I think people forget how fast your journey in this space has kind of risen. Like I think that maybe to like a Norman or the outside looking in, you're just somebody who is a face in the space that's well recognized and has had success. But like, when did you write your book? 2019?
Yeah, it came out 2020.
Right. So we're talking like 4 years where you literally started from scratch.
Yeah, no, and I think I've been, so it's 5 years, because the research for the book, but it's, I didn't play when I was actually like writing the book. And then during COVID, I basically didn't play at all. So I took, a few years during when there was no live poker. And I was in New York and Vermont during kind of the lockdowns, and I couldn't play online in either of those places. So I basically did not play for 2 years in there.
Right. And I think that's like something that's so overlooked when I was young and coming up. The youth got all the attention because the game was so geared towards the grizzled old guard, the Doyles. And, even at that time, it was still in a transition period where it's like Phil Hellmuth was like the old guard at like 40, And then there was this youth coming through, this online wave, guys like Dutch Boyd and the crew, and these guys got all the attention at the World Series because they were checking off their firsts, and you could start to project forward and say like, well, this is gonna be the first of many for this person or that person or whatever. And we've just lost all of that now. Like, we assume that anybody who's young and is playing, or anybody who's early in their poker career and has success, has done so because they have some like long-standing past history of like study and all these things that allow them to get ahead. And it's old hat. We don't care. It's not a story anymore. But really, like, what an amazing achievement just 4 or 5 years into your career, and to have it cheapened so quickly by somebody who could be having this conversation in good faith. Again, I think it's because like, not only are we all jaded, but the space has become so divisive where the only way to really capture attention is to say something that like is really inflammatory.
Exactly.
If you just kind of put a tweet out that says, I'm not a big fan of reentry, that's not going to get 106,000 clicks.
No, it's true. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Matt. That's really nice of you to say, and that really means a lot. And like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to focus on that, right? On people like you, and on the fact that, I am proud, right? Like, this was pretty amazing. And like I said, I had no idea if even in 10 years, if I'd ever, be able to say I won a bracelet. So I will try not to think of the norms of the world, and to just try to focus on the positive and be happy. But by the way, the reason that I went on my little Substack rant is because, I do have a voice, and I am able to speak out. And I don't want him doing this to another woman down the line, or another player, even, not even female, but like, I don't want him to think that it's okay to belittle people like this and to belittle their achievements, because it's not. Like, why don't we actually focus on being positive, on the absolutely amazing things that are possible, and bringing out the beauty and the love of the game and the really nice emotions. To me, it was worth writing this because I could, and because I don't want him to just be able to get away with this and be like, oh, it's Norm, just like, ha ha ha, this is what he does. No, like, I've been in situations where people have given excuses for really terrible behavior by being like, oh, this is Mr. X. This is just the way he is. You know what? No, not anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Honestly, because like I think that there's a certain level of tolerance that you're expected to have as you make it in this space. If you start as high up as like guys who are as big as Daniel and work your way down to anybody else who's a public-facing figure that has any level of success, you're just expected to win with a smile on your face and take all the criticism in the process of doing so. You make a bunch of money in some sort of capacity, and there's a narrative being pushed that you don't deserve it, or you're not good, or any of these other things, and you're just supposed to grin and bear it and kind of move on. And I think that that's something that's never sat well with me, which is probably why I'm a little bit more divisive on Twitter than I am in real life.
Wait, I'm sorry. You're divisive on Twitter?
People say a lot of dumb shit, myself included, by the way. But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there if you really want to get into a fight.
I feel like the issue with this one in particular is like the criticism here is following a tournament's rules. Like there's nothing constructive here to like say, oh, like, you know what, like, you're right, like maybe there's something wrong about this. Well, it's more so he's like trying to make Maria the martyr in order to prove the point that re-entry shouldn't exist. Yeah, it's nonsense.
Yeah, of
course.
It's
that simple. Like, it makes no sense, and there's nothing to be gained positively from this tweet.
Yeah, I can pretty much agree with that. So moving into something a little bit more positive.
Like pets and fear.
Not pets either. They make her sneeze. What I guess, like, walk me through what you've been studying and working on up until this win, and then what is your plans for the rest of the year when it comes to events that you're looking to target?
Yeah. Well, the thing I've been focused on most of all has been ICM strategy, which clearly was important here. And I've been working on that all year. And I did a few lessons with Nick Petrangelo, who's incredibly good at this. And I have to say, like, this is an absolutely unsolicited plug for Nick, but like, holy shit, worth every single penny, right? Like, just to like get you thinking differently. And then earlier this year, I wrote a piece for The Atlantic where it was about AI and poker. And for that piece, I had to play kind of what's considered the best heads-up bot in the world. And so to train for that, I connected with the team over at GTO Wizard, who shared kind of their AI, and then worked with Kevin Rabichow on heads-up play, like targeting kind of that type of strategy. And so this was all in the name of journalism, to see whether I could beat the bots. I was able to do it with like 2 really, really intense weeks of study. Wrote the piece, but I think that study and kind of that mindset definitely did not go, did not go unrewarded, because that was a really kind of important moment for, I think, looking at strategies in different ways. And then after that, and by the way, I'm not paid by GTO Wizard either, right? I'm only an ambassador for PokerStars, not for anything else. But I think, kind of playing with the simulator and studying, I've also gotten a lot better at like really reviewing hands and spots after a tournament. And this is something that I'd written about. Ike Caxton had suggested that I write down every single hand that I play live for a few events, which obviously takes a ton of work and is not fun. But it's really helpful because then you have like a live hand database that's comparable to an online database. And it's really good to then review that and be able to see, oh, I didn't even realize that this was a leak. I didn't realize I had to work on this. So being really, really diligent about that and about then reviewing hands, I think is really important. That said, I was doing all of this, had all of this training, all of these lessons before the World Series this summer, where I ended the series down over 100K. I think I min cashed 2 events, maybe 3. Like I had an abysmal series. I'm now up for the year. Like I've had a very good summer and fall since then. But like that's just goes to show, like I'm talking about all this study that I've done and like how, I can credit it for this win. But like, damn, like I'd done all of the exact same study before the summer and like I was just crushed. So tournament variance is real. And I just want to point that out so that people understand that like you're going to go through waves and it's not like I study, I see results immediately. It takes time and you're going to go on downswings. And I was incredibly discouraged at the end of the summer. Like I could not win a hand. I'd actually been writing down all of my all-ins because Nate Silver and I had a prop bet for our Risky Business podcast about who runs worse. And the person who wins the bet is the person who runs worse. So basically this is a bet that you want to lose, right? Right. I won with flying colors. And it was such a sad database of hands. I was like, oh my God, this is so depressing. I'm never doing this again. Because I was like, damn, I'm not even losing flips. Like I'm losing my 90 percenters. Like this is bad. And on the one hand, it's nice to see them be like, yeah, I'm running like shit. On the other hand, it's just not very good for your mental state to just constantly be dwelling on that. Exactly. Exactly. So I had a bad summer followed by a good end of summer and good beginning of fall. So it's not, like I said, it's not 1-to-1. I study, I win. It just so happens that like I've also gotten lucky in the last 2 months and I got very unlucky in the few months before then. And I think that's very, very important to give you some perspective.
Yeah, I think that the most encouraging reason to study is not necessarily that it translates immediately to dollars in your pocket, but more so that you very quickly will have a framework to understand how you're winning and losing. Like losing and having no idea if it's because you stink or because you're just the unluckiest person in the room is absolute torture. I can't think of a worse way to exist in a specific space where you're trying to make money, right? But when you put in the hard work and you actually are able to, like you said, go back and review hands, take deep look at spots and say like, okay, maybe I'm winning or losing on the margins here. Maybe this is just variance kind of coming into play. It's very calming and it does help you suffer through a lot of these downswings, which are inevitable. I mean, there's a reason why the bankroll requirements exist. It's not because, people are just ultra conservative and don't want to risk any money. It's because the distributions can be absolutely brutal, especially when you throw time into the mix. Like when most people look at graphs, they don't realize that time isn't on that XY axis. It's just games played and dollars won. And when you're playing live, you're talking years to get a 1,000 game sample, and that's with reentry.
Like you look at like Petrangelo legit had like years of like not winning anything crazy, and then won a bunch of stuff. Davies kind of the same idea, winning super high roller bowl. Yeah. Like it's the I study, I win, or like the hard work pays off is such a false narrative, and anyone that's been around for a long time is aware of this. Just because you get better doesn't translate to money in the first place. It might translate to not making a big mistake in the future, which is worth something. But just because you know that now doesn't mean you get to start winning tournaments.
Yeah. It's funny when I was working with Kevin, I was like, okay, Kevin, like how many hands do I need to play against this bot for the sample to be meaningful? And he's like trying to think like how many tens of thousands of hands. And I was like, okay, like I'm time limited. I don't remember what we actually ended up deciding on. I wrote about it, but I don't remember. It was either like 5,000, 10,000, something like that. But then I stopped to think and I was like, holy shit, how many tournaments live does it take me to get to that number of hands, right? Like to the number of hands where we're no longer in the noise, when we're kind of in the signal part of it.
To measure it in lifetimes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like legit the answer is never. You know, like you can't play enough tournaments to figure out if you're actually winning or not. Like you can have.
Well, it's not even just that, but it's just like any individual tournament, like how low the sample. I think people would be astonished to know that the winner of the World Series main event was probably dealt less than 3,000 hands.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Over 10 days? Like, that's crazy to think about. But with how slow it moves in the middle, I mean, it might actually only be like 2,000 hands. So imagine like all that's being asked of you is to find like 250, 300, maybe 400 hands and play them profitably.
Yeah, and you can, by the way, you can play them profitably and still lose because variance in the short term we know is a bitch. And so yeah, I think Matt, you make a really good point about like the payoff of studying being like just knowing if you're playing well or not. And to me, that's absolutely crucial. It's helped me actually like be able to figure out, okay, you know, I'm actually not scared of being aggressive here or bluffing here or running this line because I know it's correct, right? Like I actually know how this spot plays. Like I understand the theory. I understand exactly why I'm doing this. So it doesn't feel like aggression, right? It doesn't feel like a bluff. It doesn't feel like any of these scary things. It just feels like I'm playing correctly. And that's, to my mind, also like a really important way of thinking about it. And then, you know, if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay because I'm happy with the line that I took. I'm happy I made this play. And if it turns out like I said, when we were down to 2 tables and I ran that big all-in bluff to a covering player, like if he had called my king high bluff, I would have been out. We would not be having this conversation because I would have been out in 16th place and Norman Chad would be able to probably not tweet anything because I don't think he would have tweeted anything had I known.
Just not newsworthy. As kind of an aside, do you find that it improves your mental game at the table? Like, do you find that it reduces your nerves the more confident you are in a spot?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that that's huge. Like, if we're talking about it in like the system 1, system 2 kind of Kahneman terms, the more you study, the more things become second nature and the more it becomes more automatic. So you have more cognitive resources free to think about kind of the more advanced things and to think about and to kind of expend that on kind of control, mental game, being present, being in the moment, all of these different things. And because I didn't start playing poker until relatively recently, I still remember what it feels like to discuss a hand with my coach, you know, Eric Seidel. And he's like, okay, well, you know, what was his stack size? And I was like, I don't know. How am I supposed to remember this and that? And, this, and how hard it was to do things that I now just like don't even think about, right? Like I know all the time exactly how many big blinds everyone at the table has when I'm playing live, like more or less, right? Maybe not exactly, but within a few. Like I know who I cover. I know who covers me. I know like what vicinity everyone's in. Like I know, you know, give or take what their VPIP is. Like this is all information that I'm just taking in automatically. And before it was such, you know, it was so just cognitive resource heavy that I didn't have time for anything else. I was busy counting stats and busy, you know, and we take that for granted, right? Like it's not something that you pay attention to, like driving a car, right? I just learned how to drive because as someone who's lived in a city my entire life, never drove, moved to Nevada and needed to learn how to drive. And to people who drive all the time, like second nature, to me, I'm like, wait, like, what do I have to do? Right? Like I actually need to pay attention to all of these different things because when you're picking up a new skill, all of these things take resources. And so studying frees up resources for mental game. So yes, I think I feel much more confident, much calmer, much better able to handle myself when I know what a spot is like. And when I don't know what a spot is like and I'm, you know, and I don't have the ability to figure it out on the fly, like that could be nerve-wracking, right?
Yeah, I think you really touched on something that resonates with me as somebody who's created instruction videos for the last decade-ish. We forget how daunting of a task it is just to be a beginner in something like this. And the thing is that nobody's going to buy a course on how to count stacks or how to take in, you know, the meaningful information around you.
Matt, I will buy a course on how to count stacks.
Right.
Where's the drive course?
But like your point with Kahneman, referencing thinking fast, thinking slow, is a very important one. You can't really get to a point of being a skillful player until you're able to default certain information into that system too, right? It needs to be just unconscious at a point where you're able to recall stack sizes, you're able to recall suits and, you know, board textures and all these things that are so necessary. Like they're the finer details, if you will, but when you're a beginner, they're the only details. And
absolutely.
That I think is the most challenging part from a teaching aspect is when you're taking the things that are just like afterthoughts to anybody who's skillful and having to highlight them is like, okay, well, this is why your stack depth actually matters here.
Yeah, it's so funny. So in The Biggest Bluff, there's this hand that I talk about that happened at the Poker Go studio. It's one of the early high rollers, and Andrew Lichtenberger, Lucky Chewy, was involved in it. And before the book came out, you know, all the players who were in it, like I sent them their parts to make sure that I didn't misquote them, you know, to kind of make sure that this was pretty accurate. And Chewy not only remembered this hand, and by the way, he had folded by the river. It was 3 ways, and then it was heads up. He knew exactly. I didn't actually say who the players were who were in it because I didn't want to like put anyone on blast because it was a hand that was misplayed a lot by one of the players. And he's like, "Oh, it was I totally remember who the players were, and this was the board, and this was the turn, and this is when I folded." And I was like, "Holy shit, dude! This happened 2 years ago. Like, you didn't know I was going to write about it, and you were not even in the hand at this point."
Right.
And he just rattled off the board, and I was like, "See, that is next level."
It just frees you up for so much more. You know what I mean? Like you're not afraid of what cards are coming. You're anticipating what cards are coming now, and you have a kind of defaulted strategy. Yeah. When that becomes the case, poker's hard, man.
It is, and
hard.
One of the reasons that I chose this example is I think Chewy has some of the best mental game and presence of anyone I know. So it just goes to show that kind of zen really pays off.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. What do you got coming up as far as your play schedule will be?
NAPT. I'm very excited. That's going to be in just over a week, right? Where today's the 21st. It starts November 1st. And I'm super excited for that event. I know that I'm a Stars ambassador, so people think that I might have to say this, but like I genuinely think that Poker Stars puts on the best live events in the world. And so I'm just really always excited to play them. The EPTs are amazing, and I'm excited for the NAPT, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the NAPT brand expand to more stops in the US. And you know, I would be saying this no matter what, I promise, because I just think that they're such well-run, beautiful events. I'll be taking a few shots in there. You know, I'll be playing a 10K, which is higher than I normally play, right? Like that's above my normal bankroll, but it's a really nice schedule where there are a lot of different events. And I think that's my next live event. And then after that, I'll be at the Win in December, which is always a great event, the WPT series that's happening there.
Vegas
so I'm
is
really looking forward to that.
Vegas is popping during the holidays. The November to December schedule here, especially if you're a tournament player, is second to none. I'll echo one thing with regards to NAPT, Stars in general, EPTs and things like that. I think I'm most excited for everybody who's going to play the NAPT to actually be able to use the PokerStars Live app. Mm-hmm. It's second great to none in the industry. I mean, there is just something so remarkable about everything being digital. I remember when we went to PSPC 2 years ago, and I register, and I'm like standing at the desk waiting for my ticket, and they're like, "Go on, get out of here." I was like, "Where am I going?" And they're like,
check your
open the
phone.
app. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? And I open the app and it just has my seat, my table, like everything just loaded right there. Same thing like when you're switching tables, like when tables break, you don't get handed a seat card or anything along those. It's all digital. Yeah. They welcome you like they knew you were coming and you're already in the system like, "Hello, Matt, you're in seat 2. Take a seat." It's like, what the heck kind of wizardry are you guys on?
Do they have your re-entry number 2?
They probably have my re-entry number.
Oh, they have everything. You can look at your sad tournament history and be like, "I cashed for so much. Oh wait, this is how much my buy-ins were." Oops.
Yeah, but I mean, having a digital footprint for things that are otherwise public, I just
it's
think
huge.
like I'm just a big believer in utilizing data as much as humanly possible in areas where it benefits us. Now, I do think there's a lot about specifically live cash where it's really great that we don't have that data. I think it would actually ruin the game, right? Like, I think if we were able to show people's P&Ls in cash, or if we were able to show hand histories, digital to be shared and things like that, the game would just die because the people that are losing would become very, very aware of the fact that they were losing. But for things like tournaments with tracked results and all this other stuff, the game is the game, like I'm all for getting this sort of data out. Same thing with like live stream stuff. Like if people are going to data mine live streams, by God, do it. Like worst case scenario, live streams die, but who cares at the end of the day?
For sure. And I do think transparency is so important because, the Hendon mob, when it comes to tournaments, it's just like, it's a tiny data point, which is so not complete, right? And it's so easy to say like, oh, I had an amazing summer and not show all of the negative results, all of the reentries, all of the bad stuff that came with it. And I think that, it's actually really good also for aspiring players to kind of show what it takes and also to show what taking a shot looks like, because as I wrote about, like there are lots of events that are freeze outs for me that aren't freeze outs for other people. Right. Do I resent the other people who can rebuy? No, like I'm taking a shot, right? Like I know this is above my bankroll and I want to try because that's how you move up in stakes. Just like I'm sure, Matt, like at some point you probably took shots at higher cash games, right? Higher than you'd ever played. Like there's a first exactly. Like there's a first time when you do that, when you're not properly bankrolled, and that's why it's called shot taking. But at some point, like that shot becomes kind of a new, if you're good and if like luck is on your side, if things come together, then that might become your new normal. But you'll never, I still remember my first 1K event and how scared I was. Like that was a freeze out for me because like. No, I didn't. I didn't even make it through the end of a reentry period. And it was just like, it was brutal. I was so nervous. And it was before Big Blind Ante. This was kind of the end of that era. And I completely choked, but it was a really important moment for me.
Let me ask you one more poker question. And then I want to talk about risky business because I think that it's the best idea I've seen in a long time. How, like looking back now, when you wrote The Biggest Bluff and you won that prelim at PCA, how much has changed with not just your knowledge of the game, but like looking back, giving yourself an honest review of that run through that event? How different of a poker player are you now?
Oh, I'm a hugely different poker player now for a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, at that point, I had been playing poker for literally, I think that was like almost exactly my 1-year anniversary. Not quite, but like it was basically a year since I'd first held cards or seen cards because I actually started playing online. I went to New Jersey every day from New York to play on Poker Stars because you couldn't play poker in New York. But yeah, that was almost a year to the day. And, at that point, like I had been playing and studying full time for that whole year because I went on leave from the New Yorker to be able to do this. And, so I'd put in, a lot of work, more study than I've ever done since. And I don't think I will ever do again. Like that's intense, right? Yeah. And I couldn't, I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now because I'm not working on a book about learning how to play poker. I'm working on another book about cheating, right? So I have other things going on. And as you said, we have a podcast, we have lots of other things. So, I think that I obviously got incredibly lucky to win. And I wrote about that because one of the good things about that event, first, I was working on a book, so I was writing down a lot of hands. And secondly, like part of it was when we got to the final table, like all the hands were documented. So it's very easy to look back. And there were multiple moments in that event where I should have busted, right? Like I got in 7s against aces. Like I should have been out. I wasn't. I ended up, binking a straight. And there were also times when, someone sucked out on me, but you have to remember all of those moments when you got lucky. And then in terms of, my strategy, it's really hard for me to remember a lot of it, but of course, I have improved vastly since then. And I think that every single time I play, I strive to be better than the last time. Just like every single book I write, I try to go above the book that I wrote previously. I think that you're always like you are your own fiercest competitor. And I'm incredibly competitive, but I'm most competitive with myself. Like I want to do better than I did before. And I think that that's just absolutely crucial. And if I looked back and I was like, yeah, I'm basically the same player, then something's wrong and I should not be playing poker. If I looked back at me 6 months ago and was like, yeah, I'm basically the same player, once again, something's wrong. I'm not progressing. I'm not thinking in a more advanced way. And so I think you have to become stricter and you have to be harsh to yourself. Obviously, you have to not be so harsh that you quit, but you need to be hard on yourself because you need to be able to grow. And it's important to just look at yourself dispassionately and be like, yeah, okay, I fucked up here. I fucked up here. I fucked up here. I really need to work on this. Yeah, this was a really big mistake. Okay, let's move on and let's focus on this going forward.
Man, that is such cold Northeast grit just coming through right there. Yeah. Definitely.
Yes,
definitely
I'm from Boston. I am from Boston.
It shows. I don't know if I ever told you this in person, but The Biggest Bluff was a fantastic just story in general. But I really, really appreciate that you read the audio for the Audible because I can't read. I'm completely illiterate, but I very much enjoy listening. And it was the smoothest audiobook that I think I had gotten through. Obviously, I have a lot of interest there because it's poker, but just the start to finish tale was, I think, really well done.
Thank you so much. No, I don't think you've ever told me that, but I really appreciate that. It means a lot.
All right. Well, let me compliment you again. Risky Business, my favorite podcast, not even close. Little less so because of you, more so because of Nate. Not because
it's okay. I will take it completely personally. All good.
As you should.
I'm actually gonna be working on my next Substack. Matt Berkey is a total asshole. I cannot believe that he said that to me.
I think that's been written a couple times already.
Lot of field research.
You've been talking to Norm.
Yeah, a lot of field research you could do that. No, the reason why I say Nate is not because of you two individually. I enjoy both of you a ton, but you're so much more of the poker side. He's so much more of a world that I just have no knowledge of. When it comes to politics and the things that I as an adult should give a shit about, I'm so checked out. But I think he does a really great job of sucking me in, and some of it is through the betting market. You do a great job of not just hosting, but keeping the conversation flowing in a way that allows the audience to be engaged. So my first question is, whose idea was this? And were you guys good friends prior to this podcast, or is this kind of a relationship that was formed as you guys did content?
I think in terms of whose idea it was something that we'd been talking about for a few years. How can we work together? What can we do? The exact risky business was that pitch was my idea at the end, but it was kind of something that was mutual, that we'd been trying to figure something out and we'd been batting things back and forth. And the title actually, that was me. And I was like, Nate, you're going to hate this, but what if? And he's like, no, I love it. Let's do it. But that kind of answers your other question, which is we've been friends for a long time. So
yeah, that makes sense. That shows.
Yeah, we've had that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this together, because we've been friends, and like becoming closer and closer friends over a decade. And, you know, I think it's really important when you co-host something to have a strong rapport with the person who you're working with. And I think we knew that, you know, we agreed on a lot of things, disagreed on some things, but we knew how to disagree, right? That we can argue and still, you know, love each other at the end and be respectful. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, I think that shows through really well. Like, you guys both agree and disagree in a very palatable way that, like, I think draws the audience in. I also think that one of the biggest reasons why I was so excited for the podcast is because I know that both of you are very entrenched in the poker community, but to the rest of the world, that's not the case. So if ever there was an opportunity for let's call it, I don't even want to call it a poker podcast because that's not fair. But if ever there was an opportunity for the poker space to make it into a more mainstream type of format where the two co-hosts are very deeply entrenched in the community, but are also talking about things that are poker adjacent or have nothing to do with poker at all, it always works its way back in. Because again, at the end of the day, you guys are always talking about risk. And I find that to be really compelling, especially right now during an election cycle. So that's my next question. Was it strategic that you guys plan to launch during an election year?
Yes, that was absolutely strategic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because, you know, it's funny. We were, before we had decided on this podcast, Nate and I had been just talking over dinner, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sick of politics. I think I need to get out of covering elections." And I was like, "Honey, I love you, but you're not going to get out of covering elections this year."
I need more politics.
This is something that can be a nice, like, a nice goal for another time, but for now you're hooked. You're stuck in this. And so when we launched this, we did so knowing that, yeah, absolutely, the political angle was going to be huge up until the election, and probably after, because I don't think either one of us thinks that the election is going to be decided on election day.
Yeah,
probably not.
Yeah,
bets will still be open afterwards. That'll be great.
Oh, that's for sure.
What's the near-term goal of Risky Business, like, post-election? I mean, obviously it's a lot of current affairs, it's a lot of just markets in general, but what direction do you guys think that this will take, and is the goal to try to scale this to a broad audience?
Yeah, the goal is definitely to try to scale this to a broad audience. In terms of what specific directions we take, honestly, we just want to be able to talk about whatever we want to talk about through the angle, through the lens of risk. And, we've had segments that have been, about climate change. We've had things about sports. We've had things about business. I've had Brian Koppelman on, and we've talked about risk in Hollywood. So I think that we are going to be kind of going more in that direction, probably a little bit more sports, because kind of that's Nate's wheelhouse. If you tune into Risky Business in a few days, you'll hear we taped with Daryl Morey, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But just basically using that lens of risk, of thinking like a poker player correctly, game theoretically, and being able to talk about anything in the world. I think that's kind of that's our goal.
Yeah, I think it's a really important podcast for people in this space particularly, but not necessarily even for them to listen to, but more so for them to introduce to the people that are outside of the poker sphere that don't quite get it. Like, Barbara and I talk about this all the time, how Annie Duke wrote the most obvious book that a poker player could ever write. I think it's Thinking in Bets. Mm-hmm. And it's like anybody worth their salt in the gambling space or in the investment space could write this sort of book. And she was just sharp enough to go out and do it. And there's a lot of, downside to it because we don't exactly hold Annie in the highest regard. But I feel like this podcast very much embodies that, right? It's a weekly dose of reminding everybody that everything you do in life is some sort of calculated risk, and there's always going to be some sort of risk profile attached to the decisions that you're making. And the more that you're able to reframe and quantify the things that way, the easier it becomes when shit doesn't go your way. And I imagine, I was just going to say, I imagine for like a lot of poker players, especially new ones, when they're trying to introduce this life to their loved ones, their family, their friends, their peers, whatever the case may be, and justify why it's a reasonable thing to do, or even if they're, starting up a new business or whatever the case may be, it's very hard to explain that to somebody who only thinks with emotional rationale, where it's just like, oh, you're going to lose your house. They just immediately jump to the tail risks. And that's the only way that they see the world, is just through like the worst case scenario type of stuff. Was that kind of the vision when you guys went down this path?
Yeah, I mean, I think that both Nate and I feel very strongly that, game theory, that poker is a really crucial way of thinking about the world, of thinking about decisions, of making decisions, evaluating decisions, and that, people just suck at it, right? Like even poker players, by the way, unless they have that metacognitive awareness to take those skills outside of the poker table, sometimes really good poker players are really shitty decision makers in life. So it's not like a one-to-one where like it automatically translates. You have to think about it and you have to work on it. And so we want to make that explicit, and we want to make that framework accessible. And to be perfectly honest, like I want to bring more people into poker because it's helped me so much that I feel strongly that it's such a crucial tool for improving decision making. And I say this as someone who has a PhD in psychology, who studied risky decision making under conditions of uncertainty, and have never found a tool that could even begin to rival poker in terms of helping people actually make better decisions. And so I think we both feel strongly about bringing more people to the game, but also using that game theoretical framework for the outside world, and explicitly talking people through that decision process over and over and over so that it becomes second nature. And also doing it in a fun and engaging way. We talked about Anna Sorokin, aka Anna Delvey, and her stint on Dancing with the Stars. Like we want to talk about fun stories and con artists and all of that stuff that will help bring people in, and then show what the game theory behind it is, because that's a way that you can kind of go behind the veil, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of it. I think it's a really sharp way of kind of putting yourself out there as an expert in maybe one or two spaces and applying it to all. And I hope that it really does catch fire. Like, would love to see, not that I'm anti in any capacity. I mean, I listen to it when I'm interested in the guest, but would love to see like the Rogans of the world get dethroned by something that's a little bit more, I guess, functional,
Are you throwing shade?
Yeah, I am. And
no offense to Rogan.
No offense to Rogan, but very much offense to Rogan. And I would like to, it would be amazing if we could overtake Rogan. Like, holy shit. Like, wouldn't that be the dream? I don't think, I was about to say, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I'm not going to put that kind of negativity out there.
Sure, right.
That can be our goal. If we ever manage to unseat Rogan, like, holy shit, like that'll be quite the coup.
Yeah, it was just more so like an example, like, because like, look, there's other singular hosts out there that I think do a relatively great job, like guys like Huberman, who let themselves be stress tested, and they tend to do a lot of research. But like, I was just as guilty as anybody else pre-pandemic, where it was like Rogan talked and sounded relatively intelligent with another guest who also sounded relatively intelligent, and you just eat it up without doing your own research. And then like, they go a little wild in the conspiracy realm, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, is this source actually as reliable as I thought it was? And you start to do your own research, and all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe this guy's a bit of a quack, and this guy, it's the fire hose effect, where when you have a platform that big and you say things, it's just like turning a fire hose on to your audience where of course they're not going to be able to nitpick everything, as opposed to us who are very small with a tiny audience, and every single word that I say is scrutinized to eternity. So yeah, I'm rooting for you guys. Congratulations on the pod. Congratulations on the bracelet. Best of luck at NAPT. I'm sure we'll see you out here. I'll have a deep clean of the studio and get the dogs out of here so we can actually have you here one of these days. Were you in hell whenever we did the Poker Out Loud?
Yeah, well, if you remember, I made you get rid of the dogs in advance, but yeah, it was even still, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I never told you, but that's why I never came back, because you had asked me to do multiple days that week, and I bailed after the first day because I just couldn't handle it.
That makes a lot of sense. Probably less so. There haven't been many dogs here. Usually it was just Travis's during the academy, but Marley's cat lived here for like a year, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, but I think
there
had been. It was at a level where it was bad, but like more tolerable. Like I didn't have to leave halfway through taping, which could have happened.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll load up on EpiPens.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
We will see you in a week or so.
All right. Sounds good. Maria. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye. That was fun.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. We're way too long to get in the muck today.
Well, we'll have it for tomorrow.
Apparently, I'm in the muck with my Wilson take. Chad is not having it.
No,
they're
atrocious is so strong, man.
Yeah.
Look, the guy won the game.
He exceeded expectations. He really did.
How could he put up that many points and be atrocious?
He played fine. He didn't put up. God damn it! You're gonna get me started.
Don't get me started. I mean, yeah, the defense was great. We intercepted the ball, ran it down to the 1 yard line. So like that touchdown was not him, even though he.
All I'm saying is in 4 weeks when he puts up a stinker against the Redskins, the Commanders, or whoever they played the week after. I think they played Baltimore. When he just absolutely puts up a stinker, and those floaters don't get fucking caught by Pickens. And that screen pass that's 4 yards short continually happens. Just come back. Come back to this episode.
Burke, it's funny because you're so bullish on the Steelers and them like maybe winning the division and having a really good season, but you're so bearish on the person who's going to lead them to do that.
Will he, though?
Well, okay, but if he doesn't, by the time he doesn't, and they make the change back, it's like,
it might be too far gone.
It might be too far gone. Like, yeah, these two like thoughts don't seem like they're
Well, one is reality, and the other one's me being a yinzer.
Okay, it's fine.
I mean, like,
fine. As long as you're willing to admit.
Do you want me to bet on the Steelers to win the Super Bowl this year? Like, no thanks.
No, yeah.
But my heart?
Goddamn right, they're gonna win it.
You're goddamn right, they're gonna win it.
You should listen to their podcast then.
I love their podcast. It's fantastic. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Risky Business. You can follow Maria on Twitter at Konnikova. If you haven't already been following us, what the fuck are you doing? Please click the like, the subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of Russell Wilson, or what you think of reentries, or what you think of Maria's book, or Norman's Chad.
Or the Steelers winning the Super Bowl.
Or the Steelers winning the Super Bowl. What kind of odds do you guys laying for?
I was going to say, what price would you take right now for the Steelers win the Super Bowl?
I don't know. Whatever the book price is, plus 10%. Like
they were like, I think they were like 1.5% on Poly Market at the start of the season. I wonder what they are now.
Poly Market has everything, huh?
I mean, the fact that they're higher is gross.
Higher than 1%?
Yeah,
higher or lower?
I would be happy to take them at like 99 to 1. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're going to be back tomorrow, noon Pacific. We're going to be joined by Jesse Sylvia and possibly a random Jeff Platt appearance. We'll see. We're gonna catch you guys up on all kinds of stuff this week. So be sure to tune in. We'll see you guys all noon tomorrow.
3,000.
30 to 1. Let's go.
Nah, I need plus 5,000.
Peace.
Peace.